We're back with another two-game NBA playoff slate today, and it should be a couple fun ones. New series kicking off with the Knicks and the Celtics, the Nuggets and the Thunder today. 9-point spread favoring Boston at home, 9.5 points favoring the Thunder at home. Should be a fun one. We're going to do what we always do here to prepare for NBA slates, to dig into my projections, compare to some of the industry leaders out there, in particular our friends at Stokastic. We're just going to hop over to the world of betting, see what the market-based projections have for us at Unabated right now on the prop bet sites, as well as the major DFS sites out there. Of course, we're going to check. Well, what I said that totally wrong. You know the deal here. We're just going to run a DFS sim on Stokastic. By in this video, you'll know all the industry must plays and my splash plays for today's slate. Let's get into it. You can see we got Alex Caruso in the thumbnail today. I'm not feeling too great about Caruso, but he's going to be a key player at value here that we'll get to in a moment. And shout out to the chat as well. Appreciate all you guys watching live. A little bit of a late start today for the live show because I had to take the dog to the vet. So Kitty is here chewing on a deer antler next to me. She hated getting shots. Oh my God, the yelping, but thankfully, we got through it. Apparently, she might not get that much bigger. So that's the daring to have the dream of a dog that's about 25 pounds after years of 70-pound dogs. But we got our top protected players here. Enough about Kitty and dogs in general. We got Nikola Jokic here, 62.4 fantasy points. I didn't do the same thing I did in the last video where I've been adjusting my rates based upon the playoff rate data so far. So if guys have been getting more usage up, I am reflecting out a little bit more. Guys like Jalen Brunson, I felt like my projections did not do a great job. By the time we got to games 3, game 4, I mean, a little bit later in the series in particular, his usage was so much higher. Everybody else in the team's usage came down, in particular, Karl-Anthony Towns. But I'm not really reflecting guys' downside on rates. Towns is not getting a lot of usage in the playoffs. Still have him mostly aligned with where he was all regular season. For guys like Jokic, guys like Towns, guys, usage coming down a little bit in the playoffs, I'm not really reflecting that as much as I am the guys who have shown more on the positive side of things. So Nikola Jokic, basically a little bit of a shorter projection than I would normally have. 62.4 is mine. 64.2 is Stokastic's projection. So a little bit of a dyslexic number change there. 36.2% ownership overall in Stokastic's data. I'm giving him 21% of my top 150. So Nikola Jokic at this point, strong player here, but not a player that I'm going to be getting as much as I usually am of, quite frankly, how the playoffs have been so far. Can I run a few? No, sorry. That's not a thing I do. Again, I show things I'm gambling on here. If you want to be a paying member here, happy to help you out more, but just not something I care about, to be totally honest. Jaylen Brown, 40% sim ownership in the top 150, Fields at 31 for him. He looks like a strong play at 7K. The main thing for me that jumps out in the rate data so far for the playoffs, Jaylen Brown's usage has been down a little bit under 30%. Meanwhile, Jason Tatum putting up 34.4% usage, 25% assist rate, 1.5 fantasy points a minute compared to Jaylen Brown being about a 1.08 guy. So Jaylen Brown has not been great these playoffs so far. Again, if you are kind of deferring to the season-long sample size, you'd expect Jaylen Brown to get a little bit better as the year goes on. But overall for him, I think the main thing that stands out is that price tag is low enough at 7K. Knicks, a team that will play the starters most likely, high 30s minutes, if not 40-plus minutes, as they would basically all regular season. Now the games actually matter. So they're definitely locked in there, the top 5 for the Knicks, playing a bunch and hopefully being competitive enough for Jaylen Brown to get enough run at 7K that he's in play no matter what. Price tag just a little bit too cheap. You'll get him a good amount, 31% expected ownership for the field. I got 40% in my top 150 in the semi-round before the show. Karl-Anthony Towns, 85% ownership for me, 28% for the field. So this is where a thing we've talked about with my projections overall for how we're handling things in the playoffs right now, where I am not docking guys for playing less well in the playoffs, as I guess the best way to say that. There's probably better English, but really to say it like basically for a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns, where his usage has been down quite a bit. He's been at 20.5% usage during the regular season. We're talking about 27% usage for him, 15% rebound rate. That's down from 20% plus. Assist rate down a little bit as well. He's only averaging 1.07 fantasy points per minute. I'm not reflecting the fact that Towns wasn't really that good in that first series, at least in terms of fantasy production when comparing him to how he played the entire season. As a result, my projection for Towns is really high, and it would have been even higher if I didn't give boosts to guys like Brunson, who've got more shots up in the playoffs so far. So for Towns, I think he, with my normal projections, would project for about 50 fantasy points. He has not played like the Towns of the regular season, that first series. So I think there's some risk to it, but I'm getting a lot of Towns right now because basically he was so good all year long, not so good in the playoffs so far. I think if you defer to the larger sample size, you should get more Towns. Fields only getting 28%, though. I'm getting 85. Underdog Battle Royale is going to be FanDuel scoring, not DraftKings. You don't get 3-point bonuses as much. You don't get triple-double bonuses or things like that, or double-double bonuses. So definitely, I think it's actually exactly the same as FanDuel. Jason Tatum. So he's another player here playing well all year long. Obviously, you might've seen the social media graphics going around out there where he's put up really crazy numbers against the Knicks all year. I think Underdog might've had it as a tweet. But I believe he's had like 35 plus points in every game against the Knicks this season. Let me just see if I could find this real fast. Here we go. Of course, they're doing it's a shill of pick 'em. Why wouldn't they? 32 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, 25 points. All right, so he had one down game, but had almost a triple-double in that one with 10 boards, 9 assists. 40-point game with 6 boards, 4 assists, 37 points with 4 boards and 10 assists. I don't really care about that. Obviously, the individual matchups versus a team are kind of a limited sample size thing as well. We're not trying to worry about too much. But Tatum projects well. You have that as an added factor on top. I'm for 55.3 fantasy points today. Again, reflecting the fact that he has had higher usage so far in the playoffs. Obviously, with Jaylen Brown being banged up last series, that could flip around a little bit. I might have Tatum a little bit overprojected for the same reasons I do Towns, where these guys were great all year. Maybe not going to be quite as efficient or quite as high usage in particular for Towns as the playoffs go on. But for Tatum right now, 40% of the field's there. I'm getting an 85% of my lineup. So Towns and Tatum, the biggest stands I have by far. Chet Holmgren, 36% for the field. I'm getting 23. Don't think he's a bad play at that price tag, 6,700. Frankly, same thing we've talked about in the playoffs so far. Everybody a little bit cheaper than they were in the regular season. For guys like Jokic, at least you could get that he's been kind of playing less well fantasy-wise as well in the playoffs so far. Frankly, a lot of these guys are per minute. They're all getting a little bit less efficient, I guess, besides Tatum in that first series for them. But really, overall, these guys are a little bit cheap. Holmgren, I think, stands out being too cheap at 6,700. He has been playing last game for the Thunder before they finished that series off with Memphis. He was closing at the 5, and they took off Hartenstein, if I'm remembering correctly. Pull up the popcorn machine here. Yeah, so Holmgren closed. It was also Caruso closing in this one, which could be relevant over Hartenstein. Basically, they went Jalen Williams, Holmgren, SGA, Dort, Caruso to close out that last game there, and they needed him to hang in there till the end. Barely eked out that win. But basically, Chet Holmgren seems to be more locked into minutes right now, at least for that series, than Hartenstein has. So I think Chet Holmgren's a good play at 6,700. He's never been a great projection play for me this year, unless you get a bunch of guys out for the Thunder. Everybody's going for the Thunder, obviously, because it's the playoffs. So Holmgren, not a priority player or anything to me. 23% of my top 150 has him, but I get the 36% ownership going his way for Stokastic because he is really cheap at 6,700. Aaron Gordon's been getting usage up a little bit. He's really one of the nuggets here, getting more shots up in the playoffs than he did in the regular season. 21% usage compared to about 19% all regular season long. Still 0.8 fantasy points a minute, so not really producing that much better fantasy-wise, but he is playing big minutes. Played a lot of Aaron Gordon in round 1. Going back there again at 5,700. Price tag just too low for a guy who should be playing high 30s minutes as long as Denver doesn't get completely blown off the court today versus the Thunder. But I got Aaron Gordon at 63% of my top 150 lineups. Fields at 42%. The kind of player I think that fits pretty well into lineups. And for me, the kind of guy I'm hoping no matter what, if he gets you 25, if he gets you 35, I think he's got a pretty good shot at making a winning lineup at that salary and the positionality that he has. Drew Holiday, 5,500 for him is the salary, 10% ownership for the field. I'm getting none. Just not a guy that grades out that well for me this entire year unless one of the other Celtics is out. To 5,500, certainly less owned than Aaron Gordon, so maybe that's your primary game theory reason to play him. Peyton Pritchard, everybody full go for the Celtics. Hard for me to get there at 4,500. That said, 22 minutes, 4,500. Peyton Pritchard, your 6th man of the year, has produced pretty well fantasy point per minute wise the entire season. In the playoffs so far, I think it's been a little bit less good for him. He's actually only putting up 0.54 fantasy points per minute in the playoffs so far. That's with 66% true shooting. So he's hitting every shot he's getting up. He's just not getting a lot of usage at 15%. So kind of expect that to level out a little bit more as the playoffs go on, especially matchups that are tougher. But Pritchard's suffering the most, it looks like, rate-wise for the Celtics. He's putting up 0.5. Porzingis still is at 0.9. Horford's at 0.7. Drew Holiday's at 0.75. So, frankly, Holiday playing better than Peyton Pritchard so far in the playoffs. Surprising for me to see that. I didn't catch that before the show. But Pritchard, I think still, if you're deferring to the longer term and how he's played, him at 4,500, decent value. Hartenstein, 5,900, again, was not closing out games last series with Memphis when they weren't going too big. Hartenstein was the one who was not playing in those spots. Versus Denver, would think that you're probably going to be closing with only one center as well. They certainly could close with Hartenstein and Holmgren, but with the guys they have out there, I'm not sure that makes as much sense as keeping Caruso in the close like they did at the end of the series with Memphis. So Hartenstein here, you could go his way at 5,900. It's not a bad price tag, but I'm getting less of the field, only 14% for me, 22% for the field right now. Jalen Brunson, 23% for the field. I'm at 18. $8,500 salary for him. Looks pretty good again. He's had the highest usage on the Knicks by far so far this playoffs. In fact, with Towns going down to 20%. Brunson up to 34.4% so far in the playoffs. You're talking about like a seismic change in how this offense is flowing right now compared to how it was in the regular season. Obviously, a lot of jokes being made on social media as well about Brunson flopping and all that. But like part of the reason he's getting seen flopping so much of these national playoff games is because he's got the ball in his hand so often, and that's just kind of how he plays. So Brunson, based on last series, seems like a brand new man, a better version of what he's been. At 8,500 looks pretty good, but I really didn't get there as much as I would have thought with only 18% in the field of 23. A bigger cat stand for me, which feels not great based upon how the playoffs have gone so far. Christian Brown, $5,300 salary for him. I'm getting him in 39% of lineups, fields at 34. Kind of the same thing as Aaron Gordon. We've talked about in previous spots as well on the show here. But Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown playing a lot of minutes, neither killer per minute guys, but they have more guaranteed run than a Michael Porter Jr. does, who game to game can lose minutes to Russell Westbrook. These guys are out there playing defense, getting some peripheral stats. Neither a great per minute performer, even though Aaron Gordon has been actually really good in the playoffs relatively compared to how you'd expect it, or at least I would expect. Brown and Gordon functionally kind of the same guy out there doing value-y things. And this is also, wait a minute. This might have been in no particular order. Well, we talked about a lot of different guys here who are important. I don't think this was sorted. All right, so here, we'll move this around. SGA makes the list. Jalen Williams makes the list here for top projected players. Josh Hart, Porzingis. Yeah, I thought I sorted that, and I was going through and talking about the guys, and they're all relevant. Obviously, it's a two-game slate. We didn't do the usual from highest projected, lowest projected. So in order here, for me, it's Jokic, Tatum, SGA, Towns, Brunson, Jalen Williams, Jalen Brown, Josh Hart, Jamal Murray popping into this group at 7,500, Chet Holmgren, and Porzingis. For value here, and again, sorry for not doing this the usual way. I thought I had sorted, but apparently I did not. And I didn't catch it amidst talking about all those guys. Your top value guys, Tatum, Towns. So this is why I'm getting so much of these guys, 85% of each. They're not only two of the highest projected guys, they're also two of the top value guys for me. So if that's something where you want to fade me today, playing less Tatum and Towns is not a very obvious way to do that. But these two guys grade out a special place to me. For Stokastic, I would say not nearly as much. I'm about 6 points higher on Tatum, a little bit less than that, and a little bit less than 6 points higher on Towns. So that is a thing where if you want to go immediately and defer to the site that's won people millions of dollars, play less of Tatum and Towns right away. Aaron Gordon, we talked about. Jokic, we talked about. Caruso, we haven't talked about. So I've got my yucky face on the thumbnail here. I'll go full screen. There we go. That's my, I don't know. My I'm not so sure face. The thing for Caruso, it looks pretty good is that he did close out a lot of games in that last series. Again, the fact that you're not going to have two big men out there like you do for Memphis, where it makes a little more sense to have to play Hartenstein and Holmgren together more. In this spot, you're just going to have, Gordon, Porter Jr., Christian Brown. You don't really need that second big out there. And in fact, you might be benefited by having another guard. I think he still runs into the similar issue that we talked about last series with Caruso being value. And he frankly paid off a lot of times that series, even though I did have my questions about it. But you still could put out Aaron Wiggins for more scoring. You still could put out Isaiah Joe if you want better three-point shooting. You still could put out Case and Wallace if you want a different, less good version of Alex Caruso out there. You go to different looks, so I think that's really the biggest issue with Caruso. But at a 4K salary, I think you make the gross face like I'm making the thumbnail. You go, yucky, I don't like him. You're still going to play him a good amount because there's really nobody else as a 4K guy who has a good shot at closing the series, probably no matter what, gets you 15 to 18 minutes, I would say, for Caruso, and a good shot of getting you to mid-20s minutes for himself. He might be totally inefficient in those mid-20 minutes, not do a lot of anything. Had to get there a lot with Stocks in the last series where he would not have paid off his chalk as much if he didn't get a bunch of, I would say, fairly lucky, just given the randomness of it. A lot of steals, a lot of blocks in some of those games. But at 4K, there's nobody else like him on the slate. So top value today, 48% for the field and Stokastic's data. I got him at 66% of my top 150. Jalen Williams, the top value as well. 45% of the field's there. I'm at 41. $7,300 for him is a little bit too cheap. Same thing as Jalen Brown, who we talked about already. Russell Westbrook, he's been getting usage up a good amount here, closing some games for Denver as well. Bit of a surprise given some of what led to the coaches being fired in Denver was that basically the front office and coaching staff was basically that they were playing too much Westbrook. Now we're in the playoffs. They're playing a lot of Westbrook again. But basically, if Porter Jr. gets less minutes, Westbrook gets more. If Westbrook gets less minutes, probably got more for Porter Jr. So definitely a push-pull dynamic with those guys. And I probably would not play them in the same lineup on DraftKings today or really any site, but DraftKings in particular. SGA, again, good value overall, but not coming up much for me. 41% for the field. I'm at 9%. Certainly could be a little more motivation here for SGA. MVP stuff still up in the air, even though I would think SGA is probably in line to win it. Still a guy, though, that going head-to-head with Jokic, home game for them, he can put up more in this projection for sure. And I am 4 points lower than Stokastic. So if you get less Tatum, less Towns, more SGA, you're definitely playing closer to the Stokastic median projections than what I have. Jalen Brunson, still a top projected player overall. We've talked about him already. And Porzingis, again, decent value, 6,300 for him, 35% ownership for the field. I'm getting 29. Porzingis looking like a key play today, even though really not my biggest priority for Boston. It's going to be Tatum. All right, we're going to go game-by-game view real fast here, and hopefully we can get back on track and aligned with everything. Appreciate all you guys watching, though. If you do get some value out of this content, whether it's just things to fade or hopefully you listen to my takes and then figuring out what you're going to do with it for yourself, show some love if you can. Subscribe down below, hit the like button, leave a comment. Again, I'm fulfilling my promise here to run throughout the playoffs. Some days, if it's just a showdown, one-game slate, probably not going to be as into it. On Friday in particular, I had to just go to dinner with my father-in-law, so it was not something where I was playing the slate. And I only gamble here on stream or to show you guys what I'm doing here when I am playing the slates, because that's, I think, important as a content creator. But if you guys do get value of the content, show some love, subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, and come back here. Usually do these streams about 1 p.m. every day. But hit the notification bell just in case the times move around here, because my schedule might be moving around a little bit with some extra content coming up perhaps for Stokastic. For New York, we got 102.3 implied points. So about 25% ownership for Brunson, for Towns, for Hart, for Anunoby. These guys here all being played similarly. Anunoby, Hart, Brunson, or actually Anunoby, Hart, Bridges, rather. Those guys not getting a lot of usage in the playoffs. In fact, Bridges' the usage even lower. He's at about 20% on the year. In the playoffs so far, he's been at 18%. Hart's been at 14%. Anunoby's been at 17.7. So all these guys down a little bit from where they were in the season. They're all playing 40 minutes, though, so that's where they're getting there for the most part. Being out there a lot, still getting enough points, enough peripherals, certainly some defensive stats possible for all these guys. I am not high on Bridges and Anunoby today. I am okay with Josh Hart at 6,800 with him producing in every category. But this is one thing here where the field's definitely flatting out ownership more, and I have my lean, very big lean on Towns. Brunson I'll probably get a little bit more of, I think, in my final lineups, but certainly Towns going to be a player for me in about 2/3 of my lineups, no matter what. On Boston's side here, we got Tatum first quarter points, 9+. All right. I mean, I don't think that's a bad bet. I don't know what the EV is offhand of that, but I do think he's going to be scoring well today. I'm for 27 points today overall, 44.2 PRAs. For Jason Tatum, as we talked about, basically in the usage so far in the playoffs, he's leading the Celtics by a good margin with 34.4% usage. For comparison, Jaylen Brown, that's just under 30 at 29.8%. Porzingis at 24%. Derek White at 19, basically out there largely playing a lot of defense. Certainly can move around as the playoffs go on. If the Knicks dedicate their entire defense to stopping Tatum, maybe see other guys start to get more shots up. But I like Tatum a lot here, as we saw with that Underdog tweet. He's been killing guys on the Knicks the entire season. Not that that matters for how I play DFS, but bears out in the numbers here. 55.3 projection for me compared to 50 for Stokastic. It means I'm getting him in 85% of my lineup. So Tatum and Towns, my two big stands on the day that'll also be certainly to the splash plays at the end of the video as well. Jaylen Brown here, 40% for me, 31% for the field. Derek White a little bit lower, getting 17% fields at 23. Porzingis getting 29% fields at 35. If I had to choose one, I would certainly favor Porzingis, but I'm under the field on both between he and Derek White. Horford, Holiday not coming up for me. Peyton Pritchard is a value at 4,500. He's certainly a live pivot for $500 more than Caruso, but really not seeing a lot to love here for the Celtics besides Tatum and, to a lesser extent, a fairly cheap Jaylen Brown. And Porzingis is cheap too. I think those three would really be it for me if I were playing. If I had to choose three Celtics, I would say Tatum, number one with a bullet, but then Brown and Porzingis just both too cheap. Drew and Horford, they can get there. Neither has done a whole lot this season, so they're not really priority plays for me. Denver with 108.5 implied points here. Again, facing a tough Nuggets defense. For Jokic, centers like Jokic have done the best against the Thunder on the year. Guys can rebound, can also get out wide a little bit, maybe spread the centers around a little bit more. For Jokic, though, Fields not playing him a ton at 36%. I'm getting less. It always feels a little bit naked to be under on Jokic to me. He's not one of the highest owned plays in the slate, though, but I'm getting a lot more Towns. I do think getting slightly less Towns, slightly more Jokic can be a priority for me. I try to get my final lineups in. Jamal Murray's playing well in the playoffs so far, usage-wise. Obviously had a few outlier days for himself. Still averaging only 0.99 fantasy points a minute, so less than he's been averaging the entire regular season. So Jamal Murray, thinking okay play at 7,500. Also a little bit too cheap for him, but not as much as a Jaylen Brown. I would say not as much as a Porzingis as well. Some of those guys being borderline values. Aaron Gordon, 63% for me, fields at 42. Christian Brown, another guy in play a lot here, getting 39% of him. Michael Porter Jr. getting 31% of him too. Westbrook, 55%. We've had these spots a few times in the playoffs so far. We've talked about the Detroit secondary guys / tertiary guys. What would be another one that we had? I mean, frankly, the Knicks guys as well, your Hart, Anunoby, Bridges kind of group there. Like, you really, for the most part, most games want max 2 of those guys. In a lot of games, probably max 1. For Denver here, kind of the same thing, where these guys are competing for the same outlay of points. In particular, Porter Jr. and Russell Westbrook, I think, competing for literally the same minutes. But these guys overall, very much in play, all a little bit too cheap. If I had to guess, 2, maybe 3 of Gordon, Brown, Porter Jr., and Westbrook hit. If the game environment is normal and they hang in this game and are competitive and don't get blown off the court versus OKC. If they do get blown off the court, though, this spot might be a lot of ownership tied up for dudes that don't get there. So don't think you need to have them in every lineup, but naturally you're going to get a lot of them. If I had to guess, I don't think I'd have a single lineup right now without Gordon, without Brown, without Porter Jr., without Westbrook. I think getting at least one of those 4, probably 2 out of those 4, is going to happen pretty frequently. OKC here, I'm low on SGA. Just hasn't really gone crazy in the playoffs so far, and the usage rates for him are fine throughout the year. Still, obviously, a priority play for the field. 41% of the field is there. For me, getting more Towns, more Tatum for sure. Going to get more Jokic as well. But SGA, I think, in the hunt, especially if Denver's competitive for fourth quarters, SGA probably has a better shot of getting there because really, defensively, they're going to have a tough time with him. I presume they're going to try to put at some point some Aaron Gordon on him, Christian Brown on him. But really, whenever he can get switched onto Murray, onto Westbrook, if he's out there, onto Porter Jr., he's going to obliterate a lot of matchups he goes up against. Jalen Williams projected 45 fantasy points for him. I've got him for 41 here, so a little bit lower than that. Good price tag, though, 7,300 for him. Fields at 45% for Jalen Williams. I'm getting at 41 and change. Chet Holmgren, I'm a little bit low on. Hartenstein, a little bit low on here, but both guys coming up enough here, as you'd expect, on a 2-game slate. As talked about earlier, though, Hartenstein getting benched in late games versus Memphis. We didn't have 2 bigs, so think that for Holmgren, he's probably the safer play than Hartenstein at this point. You see that in the minutes projection, though. Stokastic has Hartenstein for 25, Holmgren for 31 and change. Lou Dort getting there a little bit as well, 26%, Fields at 33. He is certainly a price point pivot and a better positionality, I'd say, too. Shooting guard, small forward compared to Alex Caruso. Caruso, though, the priority play here, 66% ownership, 48% for the field. Again, the face of the thumbnail articulates enough how I feel about Caruso. I think there's risk the minutes could flow away from him, but this is what they got him for, to be that reliable, 5th guy coming into closing groups, or the guy coming off the bench and playing a reliable 15 to 20 minutes and playing some good defense, maybe knocking down a few threes, getting a few stocks along the way, hopefully a few assists as well. But Caruso, I have averaging 1 fantasy point per minute and change today. So unfortunately for me, Caruso going to be a priority and going to be with the chalk on that and above it, frankly. Keyshawn Wallace coming in here as well, 45%. Do think he's the most Caruso-like, also projected for a similar amount of minutes with 22 for him compared to 12 for Wiggins, 17 for Isaiah Joe. Certainly, Wiggins can put up a lot of points fast. Isaiah Joe can knock down some threes theoretically. I don't love this much Keyshawn Wallace ownership. I actually didn't see that I had that before the show, but I get why here at 3,400. Unfortunately, he's coming up a little bit. So that's what that looks like right now for Stokastic. Let's go to Unabated next, see if you have any decent market-based bets going. Of course, Unabated, a great betting tool here. Stokastic has some great DFS tools, so pair them together and check them out for yourself. I'm trying to log in here in one tab whenever this loads correctly. Before we get there, though, support the show if you can. Again, Stokastic, Unabated deals down below. Unabated 20% off. Link in the description to check them out. Market-based data across a bunch of different sports. It's other conditional NBA projections going as well, even though they're not out while I'm doing the show. As they come out a little bit later, they are still making people a ton of money throughout the playoffs. In particular, pro gamblers out there doing well for themselves. And go check out Stokastic as well. 15% off, link in the description. All their data, all their tools. It's going to be 15% off on Stokastic. So good deal on there. And frankly, a better one than you get with a lot of their promos, which are only like your first month, your first week or whatever. For me here, if you support the show, you give me basically half the revenue that goes to Stokastic. You get 15% off in perpetuity. So it's a pretty good deal to check out for yourself with promo code SPLASH down below with Stokastic. Let's check out our points bets here using the market-based data from Unabated. You'll see what we get in our Pick'ems and our DraftKings and FanDuel primary sportsbooks out here. Of course, a lot more books at Unabated as well if you want to check it out for yourself. I've been trying to give you guys a read on the overall here as best we can. The ones that we know everybody's got access to. That's the goal here. We're simming stuff out. For market-based data, a 1% or higher is okay. 2% or higher, ideally, for your sim stuff. But in general, though, for the conditional projections, you want to see a 5% or higher sim EV. So two different approaches here to getting good bets. Really, as you know, at this point, hopefully, if you are following any betting stuff and you're placing bets out there, the more volume you get in, generally is going to be the better chance for you to materialize the ROI from the stuff you're using, whether it's your own shit or it is Unabated high quality stuff, Stokastic's high quality stuff, their odd shopper tool. So keep that in mind here. You're going to try to always get more volume in if you can, if it means lowering your unit size and all that. We got Mike Conley under 6.5 points, looking good on PrizePicks, 4.1% EV on there. Playable on DraftKings with 1.4% EV as well, but really focus on the PrizePicks if you want to get a PrizePicks card together for Mike Conley under 6.5 points coming up tomorrow versus Golden State. Lou Dort under 9.5 points. That one's today, looking good on Underdog, 3% EV on there, not playable anywhere else. Brandon Pajemski in the game tomorrow under 12.5 points, looking good enough on your pick'em sites. Frankly, if you don't want that one, I wouldn't be mad at it. Go to rebounds next because that is all the bets we'd want to hit out of this criteria. Busy week, lots of BB, baseball or basketball or BBs. You're shooting BB guns off. Never lower the size of my unit. Ha ha ha, of course. Dick jokes always. But yes, in general, though, I would say for most people out there betting wise, you do want to have smaller unit sizes and get more action down because that is the big flaw a lot of people have in their processes out there. Unless they're lying to you on Twitter, and then there's no flaws in their process, and they're crushing no matter what. Peyton Pritchard under 2.5 rebounds. Good bet to take today. Plus 110 odds on DraftKings. Gets you 2.4% EV. Pritchard, as we've talked about the playoffs so far, definitely getting relegated a little bit down that rotation. Nothing else looks good. So Peyton Pritchard, your only bet I would take here for rebounds. Under 2.5 at plus 110 on DraftKings. Assists coming up next. Let's see what we get here. Let's resort it. All right, so it's Josh Hart bet for assists, probably the only one to take here, over 5.5 assists. Plus 135 odds on DraftKings, gets 1.7% EV. The other one's too far away. So that one at least rounds up to 2% or higher. This one, Josh Hart over 5.5, the only assist bet that I would take. Lean market so far. It's going to happen. Unfortunately, it's going to get a little bit worse as we go on. There being less games to go to and, frankly, more data on the teams as well as we get deeper into series. It's going to be the case as well. So take what we can get. That's the way we got to live most aspects of gambling. Karl Anthony Towns under 34 PRAs. Oh, I hate to see the under being valued here. What do I have? All right, so hold on. Let's see how far off I am on Cat. I've got Cat for 38.8 PRAs. So the markets would knock me down quite a bit here. I would take the over, but we do trust Unabated's data, in particular their projections. The market-based stuff probably should trust as well. 4.8% EV for Karl Anthony Towns under 34 PRAs. I would take the over, but follow the data as always. There's a lot of tracked unabated data here that shows you the success they've had all year. Less so for me saying I would take the over on Karl Anthony Towns. Aaron Gordon here, 4.4% EV under 25.5 PRA is looking good on both your pickup sites, Underdog and PrizePicks. Not so much on the regular sports books. Isaiah Hartenstein, we talked about the minutes being in jeopardy for him a little bit more. Maybe he gets some minutes away from Chet Holmgren, but that seems unlikely with how that last series went. Under 22.5 PRAs for Hartenstein here, looking good on PrizePicks, 2.6% EV. And you can take it on DraftKings as well, 1.9% EV for under 22.5 PRAs for Hartenstein. Russell Westbrook under 20.5 PRAs, good on both pick'em sites, PrizePicks and Underdog with 2.3% EV. Alex Caruso under 13.5 PRAs and be a way to hedge against the DFS play. 2.3% EV for Caruso today on PrizePicks. Everything else you wouldn't want to play. That's unabated for you. Again, lots more data here for PGA, MLB, NHL playoffs going on as well. WNBA, they'll have market-based data as well. Tennis, NFL, obviously. Lots to go play with, get market-based data on with Unabated. So check it out for yourself. Great product. And they were a great partner this entire NBA regular season as well. And let's go to Stokastic here, the last stage in our journey. We'll run a DFS sim. And of course, this sim will have no involvement from me, just Stokastic data. So you saw what my data looks like overlaid in a sim before. Now you'll see what Stokastic has for us here. And again, show some love. Go check out Unabated, 20% off. Stokastic, 15% off. Link down below. Again, to get 15% off all the data, all the sim stuff, no matter what sport. If you're playing MLB as well, which I'll be on the Stokastic stream today at 5 p.m. Eastern. Actually had a really good week in MLB last week, so I'm hoping we can kind of keep some momentum rolling there. It's been hard for me to juggle NBA and MLB, but we'll get it going there with Stokastic at 5 p.m., so come join me on there. And subscribe, hit the like button. You guys know the deal. Let's run this sim here. 35% to first. No, but I do appreciate all you guys hanging out here. I know at this point it sucks because like the regular season, I would have like about 150 more live viewers. I like the playoffs are still fun. I think people might love the regular season more, but like the playoffs, I think you have more, especially if you are a game theory person. And frankly, if you're willing to throw your projections to the side a little bit more, which has been frankly something I did not do at all in the playoffs, and it worked really well for me in the beginning of the first round. Last week was really a tough week for me, where I'm not sure if the market just sharpened up a lot more compared to my data, or if I just ran bad. Certainly could go either way. But I do feel like at this point, like I've had my most winnings in the playoffs. So I'm going to keep going here. And at a certain point, I will do some showdown content in here as well. But right now, when the main slate is a 2-gamer, like for the guy who asked earlier, I don't play showdowns for NBA during that period. I play the big tournament. That's where my money goes. That's what makes me happy. So guys out there, play what makes you happy is what I would suggest. Makes you happy and not feel like you're burning money. Like the Joker meme, I think is also the goal. All right, sim is done here. I can go prep some baseball. Yeehaw. Top ROI lineups with Stokastic data here and just their projections and ownership, as we talked about. Jalen Brunson, Kason Wallace, Lou Dort, OG Anunoby, Kristaps Porzingis, Russell Westbrook, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic. So actually really interesting to see here that Stokastic did the thing that I was saying was a good game theory concept theoretically. Kason Wallace over Alex Caruso here. Lou Dort as well technically could take a few minutes away from Caruso and be the defensive stopper, take a few of those stocks. So it's an interesting number one lineup here to see no Caruso in it. Number 2 is Kason Wallace again, Lou Dort, Jason Tatum, Jalen Williams, so big OKC representation so far. Towns makes this one, so they do have Tatum and Towns. Caruso in this one too, so not making it a thing where you have to play one of Wallace or Caruso. You're getting both. Peyton Watson, minutes are real low for him, but he did play some 5 in the last series versus the Clippers. And Nikola Jokic. Weird team here. Definitely a little bit of a game stack, though, of Denver OKC. Then you got Tatum and Towns kind of representing most of the usage from that the Knicks-Boston game. Number 3, you have Peyton Pritchard, Kason Wallace, Christian Brown, Jalen Williams, a bunch of underpriced guys. Nikola Jokic here, SGA. So Jokic and SGA, Lou Dort and Russell Westbrook. And no Porter Jr. with Westbrook here, which I do think is a good thing to have in most of your lineups. Everything else here, kind of surprised to see Kason Wallace this much. Number 4 is Kason Wallace yet again. Jaylen Brown, Josh Hart, Jalen Williams, Nikola Jokic, Alex Caruso, Aaron Gordon, Russell Westbrook. This is a lot of Kason Wallace. He is in all the top 5 here. Russell Westbrook at number 5. Kason Wallace, Peyton Watson again, Jason Tatum again, Towns, Caruso, Holmgren, Jokic. Wow, Tatum, Towns, and Jokic in one lineup. Holmgren too, paying down a lot with Watson, with Caruso, with Kason, even Westbrook. These are different teams than I would have thought for sure. Sims Hart 3 payoffs. I seems to be so. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go indeed and play a lot of Kason Wallace, I guess. Player ROIs, top ROI guys, Kason Wallace. I guess not a surprise based on what we saw in those top lineups. Kason, I do think, plays the best as a no Caruso in that lineup play. I don't know how these guys hit their ceilings together. But Caruso, Kason Wallace, direct leverage against him. And Caruso's in this top group of ROI guys as well. Number 2 ROI guy for Stokastic is Russell Westbrook. Number 3 is Nikola Jokic. Westbrook's minutes were up a good amount in that last series. Certainly can flow away in this series because Westbrook is Westbrook and blows some plays in really egregious ways sometimes. But Porter Jr. probably needs to get hot for that to be the case. So Westbrook's certainly in the hunt today at 4,800. Nikola Jokic, your number 3 ROI guy. Lou Dort, number 4. Chet Holmgren, number 5. Caruso, number 6. So Wallace and Caruso, both in the top 7 ROI guys for Stokastic. And number 7 here is Kristaps Porzingis. So lucky number 7 here, bringing up the rear, is Porzingis. Highest exposed guys. Kason Wallace is 66% of lineups. So 2x the field at 32%. Nikola Jokic in 66% of lineups as well. So he is also in 2/3. Caruso, 59% fields at 50. So you're getting a lot of Kason Wallace. You are still getting more of Alex Caruso and Stokastic's top 150. Russell Westbrook, 57% in the fields at 37. So pretty big stand in favor of Westbrook. For comparison, they are basically with the field on Porter Jr., 24% in the fields at 22.5. Lou Dort, 52% of Stokastic's top 150, fields at 35. Jalen Williams, 48% fields at 46. And Chet Holmgren, 47% fields at 37. So really all OKC Denver. If you are going to play more Knicks Boston, feels like it's a bit off the beaten path with Stokastic sim at the very least. Highest leverage guys for Stokastic. Kason Wallace, no surprise. Nikola Jokic, Russell Westbrook, Lou Dort, Chet Holmgren, Alex Caruso, and Karl Anthony Towns, getting 33% Towns, fields at 28. Most negative leverage guys, the guys they want you to get the least of compared to the field. Jamal Murray, negative 16%. Only 5% of the top 150 lineups have him. Mikal Bridges, only 1%. I am supportive of that because Bridges never comes up for me because he was awful all year. Jalen Brunson, 12% exposure here. Fields at 23. So, wonder if they're saying with more Towns, less Brunson, that things get back to the regular season a little bit more. And that would be a sort of logical thing for a site like Stokastic to do, where you're looking at the longer term sample size. Towns crushed all regular season. Playoff wise, though, pretty big flip where Towns got down to 20% usage and Brunson got up to 34 and change. So they're going more for the longer term sample size, which I think is fair. Tatum, kind of the same principle here. His usage has been up in the playoffs. They're not giving him a boost here, negative 11% exposure. You are still getting Tatum in 28% of lineups, though, so not as much of a fade as Brunson. Certainly not as much of a fade as Mikal Bridges or Jamal Murray. Peyton Pritchard, only 3%, Fields at 13. Drew Holiday, only 1%, Fields at 10. I also do not like Drew Holiday. And Peyton Watson, 7%. He was in a few of those top lineups, but a 7% exposure here compared to the Fields 15. So basically taking anti-stands on the guys. With Watson here, with Pritchard, just not guaranteed a lot of minutes. That's fine. Stokastic loves Kason Wallace, though. I'm going to tell you who I love in a moment. One last run through the plugs, though. Please do show some love. Subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. I show up and do the work here as best I can. Again, no presenting spots for the show right now. Mostly doing it for the love of the game and fulfill my promise to you guys that I would see you through the rest of the season. So that's what we're doing here every day, showing you my data. Of course, things that I'm gambling on alongside you guys here. That's the goal here. We're doing it together, and whether you fade me or not, and just the process we got to do together here every day around 1 p.m. Eastern time. Check out Unabated too, 20% off their conditional projections or the market-based stuff for yourself. You want to get access to every sport on there. Great tools. Professional bettors spend a lot more money than you or I do in a given night on them, and they make a lot of money off it. Some guys make their livings off of Unabated's data, so check it out for yourself. 20% off, link down below. Do it for a month, I would say. Probably not the regular season package or the rest of the season package. It's kind of expensive. 15% off for Stokastic. Links down below as well for all the data, all the sim stuff. And if you want to play some best ball, check out Drafters too. $100 deposit match on there. For Drafters, they have Pick'ems as well that are frankly a little bit softer than some of the other sites out there. But $100 deposit match for Drafters. Check them out because they are presenting sponsor of my NFL content right now. All right, so splash plays for the day. I think Caruso has to be one of them. A little bit surprised to be seeing as much Kason Wallace as we got, but I think that he is your pivot point to Caruso. I probably wouldn't play those guys together, but Stokastic gave you a lot of both. So I always say here, you can tell me if you want, but please feel free to default to the site that's won people lots of money. You'll see their avatars on, on the top of the tournament every single day. They wanted to get Caruso and Wallace, maybe consider Caruso and Wallace and a good amount of lineups. Besides that, for me, I'll be dying on the hill of Tatum and Towns. I think the projections look too good to me. Aaron Gordon, similar thing as well. Westbrook, I'm going to have more than the field on, I think. He'll be in about half my lineups. Some of my biggest stands are those guys, but you hopefully know the rest by watching this video. So, again, guys, appreciate y'all being here. Make sure to show some love if you can. Hit the like button and subscribe. What show am I running on? Stokastic, I'm doing MLB shows right now. So I'm on the 5 p.m. MLB Live Before Lock, so come join me on there. I'm going to go prep for MLB right now, in fact. I'll see you guys on there in a couple hours. Enjoy your days, guys. Make sure to gamble responsibly, even though it's always money time here. And good luck. See you guys soon. And pop into the Discord, too. By the way, $5 to join here. Does support the channel, and you get access to yourself if you join. So do that. But join the Discord. Link down below. $5. See you soon. Bye-bye.